Welcome to the Big Time Strength Podcast, featuring small school strength coaches making the big time where they're at. Today, our host, Coach Preston Peterson, interviews a high school strength coach who is creating a big time strength conditioning experience for their student athletes. Today's episode is sponsored by Team Builder. Team Builder provides strength conditioning software to athletics programs around the country. Whether you write your own programs or want access to over 100 templates, Team Builder can make your program more efficient, more accountable, and smarter when it comes to measuring your team's effort in the weight room. Visit their website and start a 14-day free trial at teambuilder.com. Thank you for listening, and I hope you enjoy the episode.
Hey guys, welcome to another episode of the Big Time Strength Podcast. Today's episode is also sponsored by Optimum Nutrition. Athletes train hard to play at the highest level, and all that hard work raises the need for muscle recovery. Optimum Nutrition's athletics program has industry-leading products that can help. Protein is key to muscle recovery, and Gold Standard 100% Whey, the world's best-selling whey protein powder, provides 24 grams of protein that mixes easily using just a glass and spoon. Gold Standard 100% Whey is made in Optimum Nutrition's state-of-the-art facilities in Aurora, Illinois, and is banned substance tested by Informed Choice. Through Optimum Nutrition's athletic program, you can also get Pro Gainer for athletes looking to become bigger and ready to eat protein snacks, including protein crisp bars, cake bites, protein wafers, and protein almonds. After dominating the sports nutrition industry for over 30 years, newly created Optimum Nutrition Athletics brings the same trust and quality that knows how to put convenient options for protein in the hands of athletes who desire to become bigger, stronger, and better at their sport. Email Derek Walters, Director of Optimum Nutrition Athletics, at dwalters@glambia.com for more information and to get free samples sent to your facility for your athletes to sample and provide feedback. Now, here is today's episode. Hello and welcome to another episode of the Big Time Strength Podcast. This week we have Coach Matt Orton on from Cedar Rapids Jefferson High School. He is a longtime strength coach, has also coached other sports along the way, head wrestling coach, and just has some awesome experience. Actually, my first year being at Mount Vernon High School, I traveled over, got to watch Coach do his stuff, work his magic. And I tell you, a guy that gets a ton of people on board, very creative with the space, does a great job making sure that he's teaching. And they do an awesome job with standard-based grading. And if anybody has questions on that stuff, man, he is an awesome resource. And just so many things coming from just a ton of devotion and for his athletes. And it was pretty easy to see that when I went and visited him. So I'm happy to have him on. Coach, could you kind of start out by giving us your background, where you're from and where you're at now, obviously, and then kind of the path that got you there?
Perfect. First of all, thanks. I appreciate it. I'm honored. Been following the podcast and listening. I have an early morning class, so I make my trek out of here about 6 o'clock in the morning. Go pick up one of my athletes. And on the way, I listen to that pretty religiously on the way in to class. So it's nice to be on as well. So let's see. I told you briefly while we were talking before this. I am a Cedar Rapids Jefferson graduate. So I've come full circle. I graduated from Cedar Rapids Jefferson 1989. And from there, I spent a year at the University of Northern Iowa. I went there to wrestle. I was a state champion in high school. And then from there, I left and followed John Creeps, who was assistant coach at Northern Iowa, who was kind of revitalizing a program down at Southwest Missouri State. Left and I finished up there, was a Division I national qualifier in 1994. And there, I guess, kind of started my interest in strength and conditioning. Worked with Kirk Woolfolk, who was my strength and conditioning coach there, who left Southwest Missouri State. And, worked with Lou Holtz at Notre Dame for a little while, and he's currently the strength and conditioning coach at the Naval Academy. From there, I went to finished up my teaching degree at Lindenwood University in St. Charles. I liked it, stayed there for a while, and actually was an elementary PE teacher for the first 9 years of my career. I was up here in Iowa for my grandmother's funeral, and ran into my high school prom date, and we started dating long distance, and decided to move up here. I guess that was in 2004. And during that time when I was in St. Charles, I coached wrestling, was in charge of the strength and conditioning for the wrestling team, and then also coached cross country for several years down there. And left there, finished my degree in administration, education administration. Had planned on coming up here and looking for a principal job. So I interviewed for a couple, and then was called by Marv Ryland at Iowa City West, and who had offered me a coaching and coaching wrestling and a teaching job, PE, and part of that was the strength piece. So really got connected with Dave Williams, who was the owner of Performance Therapies, and had been contracted to run the strength and conditioning at Iowa City West. And I always had a trainer there full-time who worked with the classes. And so with that, I just kind of learned the programming through Dave Williams, and then took over a class called Advanced Weights, and later on changed that name to Performance PE. Learned programming, really fell in love with strength and conditioning. Worked with Adam Blaylock, who is now a strength coach at Limestone College out in South Carolina, and worked on, and really on the fly, learned movement progressions, and just basically teaching strength class, from the foundation, from the programming, all the way up to progressions, to movement patterns, and just kind of learned on the fly. And from there, stayed there for 7 years, doing that same that wrestling coaching and the strength and conditioning. And at the end of 7 years, we had, that last year I was at West, we won 7 state titles in different sports. Strength and conditioning was a big part of it. We had classes every day. I had 4 performance PE classes, anywhere from 45 to 75. Got the opportunity to work with some great coaches while I was there, and then was presented an opportunity to go back to my high school at Cedar Rapids, Jefferson, and start the program there, and really took everything that I'd learned at Iowa City West, and really built it from the ground up. I think we started with 17 athletes in our strength and conditioning program when I got to Jefferson. And today, I think we have just over 300 students enrolled in my class. I have 6 classes, so the average is a little over 50 students per class. So now I've always trained on my own. Then, I just fell into the strength and conditioning piece about 17 years ago when I started at Iowa City West. About that same time, I was also, getting started. I was doing some CrossFit, some Olympic weightlifting. I had contact with Jeff and Nikki Martin, who originated CrossFit Kids. I was looking for a way to introduce movement to students and kind of, new and something different. So I hooked up with them. They're out of Ramona, California. Had a lot of success with teaching kids movement in short bursts. I know sometimes at CrossFit itself gets a bad rap, for the perceived intensity that goes along with it. But my intention was to try and find a safe way to introduce movement in small chunks, and this really worked out well. For the beginning of each of our trimesters at the time, developed some, general physical preparedness, and then we developed our structured strength, which what we would see in any weight room across the country, right before we developed our structured strength program. So through that, started the program at Jefferson. While we're actually the only nonprofit CrossFit affiliate in the state of Iowa. We do that. We weave CrossFit just about in all of our classes, but Performance P is just primarily structured strength. But we do have CrossFit within our school, so all of our kids are getting introduced to strength and conditioning, whether they're an athlete or not. So that's what brought me to where I'm currently at.
Coach, that's a ton of experience from a lot of different areas. You go from UNI all the way down to Missouri, and then St. Charles, hanging out in Lindenwood, and they have a nice strength background there too. And then obviously coaching on your own all the way from elementary physical education up to high school, and just all the different experiences that you've weaved together is pretty cool just to see where that's taken you and to experience a little bit of what you're doing with the kids at Cedar Rapids Jeff. Can you tell us what the culture of your program would look like, or an outsider going in, what would they see when they come and check out your class?
So you've got to experience, the kids call it, the cave, the underground, whatever. So I guess the first thing you notice is it's in a basement. It's deep in a basement. So you're not going to just happen along and find the weight room. And sometimes it sounds like a bomb going off if you're upstairs. They hear the weights hit the floor, and people that are upstairs go, "What is that?" And they end up finding out, "Oh, that's where the weight room is." And the unique thing about it, say bombs going off, it was formerly, part of it anyway, was a fallout shelter. So it was built during the Cold War in the 1950s. And so the space that I currently occupy was originally designed and used as a rifle range. And then it was also, beside the rifle range, was the fallout shelter. So with those spaces combined, we now have what currently is our weight room, which we've made the most of our space, and it's we have 25 racks down there. We can put 100 kids in there, run them through there pretty efficiently. So the culture of our space is kind of a blue collar work ethic. Most of our kids come from blue collar families, and so I would say that my kind of hashtag is believe in work. So I think if you come across our kids and you see them in there, our success is built upon that blue collar work ethic and just believing in the work that's going to make them better.
That's really cool, Coach. You kind of probably alluded to a little bit of it, and I'm not sure which way you'll go with this, but I always really like to ask each coach, what is a unique way you're making the big time where you're at? What would that be for you?
I thought about this a little bit. I guess we introduce all of our students to strength and conditioning regardless of whether they're going to be involved in our athletic program or not. And from there, they can kind of choose. We have all of our students have to take a foundations course when they come to high school, whether they're new to the school or new to the district. And one of our instructors, Kelly Snyder, teaches this class, and she's outstanding at introducing movement patterns. The class is called Health and Fitness 1, and it's our version of a zero block taught within the PE program. We offer the opportunity of freshmen kind of waive this if they take a summer training session. And then through that session, students can demonstrate some type of proficiency with all of our movements, and then do the drills, the terminology. They'll take an online course, and they'll also get CPR certified during that time, regardless of whether they take the summer course or take it during the school year. The only benefit is just kind of those incoming freshmen, first semester freshmen, can start off their career taking performance PE. So most of our athletes that are going to be contributors, the coaches kind of get in their ear early and let them know, hey, this is something that you need to do during the summer so that you can be in a strength and conditioning class throughout your high school career. So with that, all of our students have that opportunity. We don't really run a before or after school program. Every school is unique, and going to that, our Iowa chapter of the National High School Coaches Association, you learn a lot about what other people do and how they run things. So in our situation, we use our after school time for enrichment and just working with individual students. But we offer both in-season and out-of-season training programs within our classes, and those classes function all day long, starting with our early bird class at 6:30 in the morning, and then we finish with our 7th period class at the end of the day. I have 2 really outstanding co-teachers. One of them is Chris Busing, who happens to be our head football coach and our track coach. The other one is Chad Garber, who also works in the PE department as an assistant wrestling coach. But they, in my larger classes, kind of run the in-season athlete program, and I have up to 6 different programs running simultaneously within those co-taught classes. So it just allows us the ability to run multiple training programs within a class period. One of the other things that we do is we'll run that that training program that's out of season only in those other classes. So co-taught classes have the ability to have both in and out of season programs, and then just the singletons where I'm by myself, I just have one program that I'm running within those. I've tried to offer, the classes where you're running multiple programs within that class where it's by myself. It's just too difficult to just have the consistency and run the quality of the program that I want to run with those kids spread out and then being in different places. Let's see, some other things that make us unique. We try and run classes so our student athletes are also coaches. I've got a class in the morning with 92 athletes in it, so it's really important, just to have eyes everywhere. We do a good job with our young people and getting them prepared for that class with the 0 block. But it's always good to have people that are giving you feedback as well. So I think that's probably the most unique way, and it's tough to tell what's really unique. You can hear it, see what other people do. Your podcast is great for doing that, but until you're actually out there and I talk to try and pick the ears of my kids that are coming back. What do you notice? What's different? What are you not prepared for when you get to college? What are some things that are unique that you could have been more prepared for? And then what do you think we're doing a really good job of here in preparing you for post-secondary? So I think that's probably the biggest thing that makes us unique.
Coach, that's an awesome amount of information. I can attest to a lot of that stuff just because I've seen it. And it was only one day, but just to see what you're talking about and what that unfolded for you is really cool to know that, like there's a ton of ways to skin a cat. You found an awesome way to do it. And that makes you guys unique in making the big time where you're at. And I tell you, when you have an athlete or athletes come in and they talk to you about those things, you get the feedback to say, hey, these are the things that we want to change or possibly change, or these are things that we're doing well. Man, that just excites me to know that, no matter where you're at, I mean, you've been doing this for a while, you still want to be the best that you can be. And that's cool to me.
Yeah, absolutely. Just trying to get better. Every day, every year, do it a little bit better.
Yeah. All right. So you've got a lot of different moving pieces, right? So maybe there's 6 programs going on at one time, and you might still have 3 coaches in there, but that's still a lot of stuff going on. You also have, a rifle range / fallout shelter. So the area of the room is different. Like there's different challenges that you've had to overcome. What are some of the toughest hurdles that you've had? And then how did you overcome those challenges?
Wow. So I guess, one of the big hurdles for us was just being, we're a little over 50% free and reduced. So I guess the biggest challenge is finding a way to make it work within our school day. We have kids that have jobs. Tons of kids that have jobs. We have kids that have to watch younger brothers and sisters when they go home to make it work with their family. So really, I guess, what works for us and may not work for everybody else is just finding a way to make it fit. So, bringing the PE program into our strength and conditioning and making it part of our day. We changed. We went from every other day PE to every day for one semester to fulfill their PE credit. And then we were pretty successful with that. So most of our kids were taking it more than one time. I'd say about 85% of our students take more than what's required as far as PE is concerned. So they'll take it once for their PE credit and then the second time for their elective credit, and then just fitting it within the schedule. So organization is really, key for us to make it successful. We've got 53 minutes to get in there, get everything that we need done, warm-ups, cool-downs, explaining movements, reviewing movements, and then, getting after it as far as the structured strength piece of it. So I'd say, just fitting it in to what we had available was the biggest thing. And then, funding the space. When I got there, I think there were 8 racks. So in order to facilitate having classes of 60, I had to have at least 15 racks where I could get that number of kids in there safely and get them moving and have enough equipment for everybody there. So, just being creative with funding and trying to find grant sources was a big deal for us.
Those are things that, like everybody kind of has those struggles, right? Figuring out where is this money going to come from to get the things that we need to do done. Like if you're talking about the constraint of, trying to get every one of your athletes, in the biggest division of schools in Iowa to be able to come throughout your day and only having 8 racks, like that's not going to work. So to be creative in that way is a big deal. Can you maybe, there's coaches around the nation that want to know this stuff. Give us a rundown of maybe the grant process that you did. Maybe if there's a couple grants that are nationally known, or maybe even in Iowa, maybe just a little bit on that and kind of the steps that you took.
Well, I've been really fortunate as far as the grants go. When I was in Iowa City, I was part of the team, was part of our PEP grant team. I didn't actually write the grant, but for the PEP grant, because you really need a professional grant writer to handle some of that stuff. And, just wasn't knowledgeable enough about it. But I did, give feedback and was part of the reception And as far as, spending the money and knowing where the money goes and how to allocate it and getting the data to back it up. So my last year in Iowa City, I wrote a grant through PE for Life, and then it was also in partnership with Hy-Vee and then Blue Cross Blue Shield, and it was in terms of grant writing, it was pretty small. It was for $50,000, and I applied for the grant and kind of knew what they were looking for through being through the process before with the PEP grant. So wrote that proposal up, and actually was awarded the grant for $50,000, and was part of going out and kind of finding out where that money was going to be spent and how it best met our needs when I was at Iowa City. So when I got to Jefferson, I looked for that exact same grant. So fortunately, I knew exactly what they were looking for. So I wrote a proposal, and which was a little bit different at the time because I was really wanted this for what I specifically did at Jefferson, which was the weightlifting rather than all the classes. So I wrote that grant, same group and same $50,000. So that covered equipment and training. And then after that, so we used that money to purchase enough racks, enough equipment, so we could start the 15 racks, and then just add it on each year through our PE budget and our athletic budget. And then there was the following year there was a grant for a foundation grant through the Cedar Rapids School District, and it was a innovative technology grant. So at the time I was looking for a video analysis software where I could have the students take video, make a video library of their movement, and then and keep track of that went along with their data each time that we were in the weight room for structured strength. So I wrote that grant through our foundation, and that was for $13,000, and it paid for a class set of iPads. So we used those to record, and what is currently Huddle Technique at the time was an app called UberSense. So we got the grant for that, and that was the $13,000. And then our alumni association hosts a golf tournament. So I guess part of being a strength and conditioning coach is you're like a marketing guy too, and that's really kind of being a high school coach in general. You got to be your own campaign manager and go out and seek your own funding. So I went out and asked them because they were looking for a big project, something that they could put their name on and that would affect a large population at our school. So I said, this will affect every student in our school. Every student that goes through our PE program we use this equipment. So they've been instrumental. I think they now each year they have a $10,000 project that they take care of, whether that's equipment or mats or whatever we need. They kind of take care of those big projects for us each year. So funding, it's been huge, just trying to accommodate, the number of students that we have on a daily basis, and just being creative and going out there and seeking that out. I've checked a lot of websites, over the years now. This has been probably 7 years since I got the first one at Jefferson. But each year I just try and go and scour the internet and find things. And I think last year or 3 years ago, Kelly Snyder sought out a water grant. And it's funny, it's the water grant was intended provide access for students to water. So, drinking fountains in the weight room, the water bottle fillers that you can attach to the existing drinking fountain was a big thing. And they're, I don't know if you're familiar, but they're expensive. So they match the funds for equipment to whatever it costs to install the water fountains, the water bottle fillers. They would match that equipment. So we've been pretty creative and really fortunate to kind of have some really good grant sources. And when we can't find them anymore, we kind of go to our booster club to seek out funding.
Just for other coaches to be able to reach out to someone, like hopefully they find a resource in you and know that they can reach out if they want to get more information. I know I'm going to pick your brain a little bit more about this in the future here. So be prepared for that, Coach.
Absolutely.
You talked about one of the things that you did was UberSense or now Huddle Technique, and I've seen how you kind of use that within your weight room with your kids doing a lot of that work. It's not you going around and filming everybody; it's them partnering up, and it's a really nice system and something that I want to move toward as I learn more and as we get closer to some more standard-based grading type stuff. Can you give us a rundown of that, but also Qualifier and some of the other technologies that you use?
Yeah, absolutely. So with us being a CrossFit affiliate, we've had some different companies approach us, and probably the first major one was Qualifier, which was originally, I think it was designed to work with CrossFit gyms as a tracking software, but really it's just a huge skeleton. They do have the weightlifting movements, they have some metabolic conditioning in there, but really it's just a skeleton. So it's an app-based program, it's a web-based program as well. I've seen Team Builder, platform. There's lots of different things out there. But this company approached me in 2013 and said, we'd like to offer you this platform to use for tracking of your students. And I said, well, how much does it cost? And they said, well, it's about $1 per athlete per month. And I said, whoa, that's out of our league. We're a school, or a public school. There's no way we could afford that. He said, no. He goes, we'd like to offer it to you for free. I said, well, what's the catch? He goes, nothing. He goes, just use the product and tell us what you think. I go, well, how long do I get to use it? I go, forever, as long as we're in business. So up front, it was just a lot of entry as far as what do we do, what reps, what set, what's the workload, and then tracking really whatever you want to track. So, like for instance, today we'll have like our front squat in there, and we're only recording our heaviest set. So we'll put in, if our last set was 3x250 on front squat, that's the piece that's going in there. It'll also tell all of our students on the front end what's going to be in class that day. What do we have scheduled for the day? They can see it just like what Team Builder does, but I'm putting in the information. And I know Team Builder does some of that, but it has some preloaded workouts in there as well. But everything that I've ever done is in there, and tracks everything, does reporting for me, similar to what everybody else does, but mine is just for the right price. It's free. So I've had several student teachers and other educators, other people that have connected with me through social media said, what are you using? How much does it cost? And I've told them, go ask them. It's free. And they've also gotten the product and use it as well. But it's just a tracking software. But I can do reporting, trend reporting. I can do attendance through it. It's app-based. Kids like it. I use it for attendance. They sign in. I know they're there. And then I give them till 6 p.m. to get their data entered each night. And that's essentially what they're grading on. I'm submitting videos and making sure that they get their data recorded.
That's a great resource, and I'm sure coaches were going to check into that. Truly, the cool thing about when I went and saw it was how well kids could function with it in accordance with also using the huddle technique stuff. And then also use like some QR codes to do some of the standard-based learning, and then some Google Forms, I think, is what that was tied to. So that is maybe, can you go into that maybe just a little bit, how you're tying in, like an athlete in your weight room, they come in, they might grab an iPad, they get to the rack, they get to work, but what's it all look like?
Yeah. So, I guess there's 3 things that I use every single day. Qualifier for the tracking software, sign in for attendance. And all of this really, they'll see it on their screen, on their phone, because I do have a class set of iPads, and some of my students will use it. If they don't have a phone, they're certainly welcome to use whatever is available. But most of the kids, regardless of how much, what their free and reduced status is, most of my kids have a phone, so they can use it. We had our tech group come in, and they put a enormous server in, a Wi-Fi server, so it can handle the broad amount of video that's being uploaded and downloaded. And then, so I use Huddle Technique, which was UberSense. UberSense was bought out by Huddle, I guess, about 4 years ago. And they called me up one day. I was just sitting in my office and said, do you mind if we do a conference call? I said, with who? And they said, well, with Huddle and with the app architect for UberSense. And I said, okay. I said, I'm from Cedar, Iowa. Why are you interested in talking to me? He said, well, he goes, did you know that you're the largest volume user of UberSense in the world? I said, no, I had no idea. He goes, well, you are. He goes, so we figured if you're running across an issue, he goes, we'll be able to go through you and find out really quick what's the problem. He goes, what would you like to see on the app? I go, are you creating one? He said, yeah. He goes, what would you like to have on it? What would you like it to do? So essentially, Huddle Technique was created for my class. So it's everything that I wanted it to do. Slow it down. I wanted to control how long it was stored on the iPad. I wanted a cloud so I could store as much video as possible. And I wanted the ability to create a link for it so that I could tie it in with the data piece that was on Qualifier. So essentially what I wanted was for my students to be able to get quick feedback, regardless of whether it was the data feedback from Qualifier or the video feedback, where they would correlate, where a student would see, hey, I got a PR today. This is the best that I've ever done. But also along with that, my technique is getting better. So I'm seeing that my movement quality is improved. Therefore, my maxes are going up. So I guess that one of the other things that I really want kids to leave understanding is that quality movement is going to trump whatever numbers that are going out there, and hopefully they're understanding the correlation between quality movement and their numbers going up and safe, efficient movement. So Huddle Technique, we use that daily, and students tag. I'm able to, through my zero block class, add students in there so that when they start a performance PE class, that they're ready to go. They know how to use it. They know how to use email. They know how to use all the technology that goes along with it. The other one that I'm using quite frequently is Seconds Pro. It's just a compound timer. I can do an iCloud open, I can split it and then spray it up using Apple TV on all the screens. And really that just kind of controls when kids rotate. I know there's other apps that do that now with timing, but I can do the same thing with a $3 app, and there's no monthly cost to it other than, free with Qualifier. I use Jaw2. I don't know if you're familiar with that, but it's a wearable, customizable timer. We use it for agility. We use it for 40s pro agility, some shuttle runs, 10-yard runs. And I bought 6 of them, so we can use those really quick to record a lot of data fast. But it's been extremely efficient as far as doing like a combine test for all of our athletes at the beginning of the semester and getting times recorded for a lot of things really quick.
Have you found that it's pretty accurate? I saw that surface here not too long ago, and I've looked into it a little bit. You like it?
Oh yeah, love it. It's very accurate. I don't. As long as at first I had to do some troubleshooting with that app developer, as far as getting connected with all the different wearables. But once I troubleshot that, it's excellent. I would not recommend it to somebody, especially for the price. I think at Christmas I got 6 of them for like $300. So as far as efficiency and running lots of kids through it in a day, I can't imagine doing a hand timer and trying to get everybody through it. The only other piece that I use as far as technology is Google Forms. I use those for surveys. I use them for my final. I use QR codes, so students can either use their phone or one of my class apps, iPads, and take their final right on their phone. Just read the QR code and go to town, get it finished, and use those Google Forms and mix up the questions and get through and grade a test of get 300 kids through a test pretty quickly. Efficiency is probably I tell my kids, be efficient, be efficient. It's funny that the cheerleading said, if you're an athlete, really that's being a better athlete, being a better mover is all about efficiency. So if we can do that and kind of instill that in our kids every day, we're doing the right thing.
All right, Coach. So you've thrown out a lot of information as far as culture and the technology you use and some challenges you've overcome. Kind of switching gears now, let's roll into what training looks like for you. So what is your training philosophy? And like I tell a lot of coaches, that I know that's such a broad term, but if you were going to sit down an athlete and kind of explain the program or to another coach, how would you describe your program?
We're trying to keep it simple enough so we don't overcomplicate things. You just come in and get some work done and move well. So we got a lot of stuff going on, but really, I just try and keep the movements pretty simple. The teaching of the movement and the progressions pretty simple, and then just build. So I guess training philosophy, keep it simple, make sure kids are safe, and make it consistent. Just continue to build on what you started. I want to build what I call rugged and resilient athletes, kids who get injured less frequently. They understand the role of strength and conditioning and how it plays in their success. I want kids to understand what they're doing, the whys of what they're doing, so that it's easier for them to make the connection to how it makes them successful. What we do is probably a little bit different than most people do it. It's always interesting to me to see how other people are doing it. So it's tough. The nice thing about what you're doing with the podcast and even with the High School Coaches Association, it's the Facebook page. It's like opening up Pinterest. It can take you a lot of different directions. You can see a lot of different things. I kind of equate it to, I've got this little black backyard landscaping project that I'm doing, and I can get on Pinterest and I can find a lot of things that are pretty close to it, but nothing exactly like what I have. And that's kind of like what you're doing with this whole thing. You're trying to find pieces that best fit with what your goals are in your program and the space that you have. So everybody's a little bit different. So I've got kids. I've run trimesters. I've run semesters. I've run every other day. So right now I have kids for a semester. So I guess what I do is pretty linear, I would guess, within that semester. So our macro cycle is kind of like a modified linear program that lasts for one semester. So I can program that out, be pretty consistent with that. And, I'll have students moving from in season to out of season and vice versa. But this, it all fits within that semester class schedule. So, things that I've done, like this year, I went to the conference up at Johnston, and Luther does a great job. And I didn't have a chance to go to his triphasic programming lecture, but I got the notes on it, and I thought, wow, this is great. And I didn't have to change a lot of my programming, but I really just took what I was doing and changed the workloads a little bit and kind of implemented the eccentric phase for the first mesocycle that we had, and then went to the ISO phase in our second mesocycle, and our third mesocycle went to the eccentric phase. That's currently what we're on right now. I'm just trying to be a little bit more explosive. But it really worked out really well, because for me, I want kids to be able to give feedback in that eccentric phase right up front at the very beginning. Just allowed my kids to slow things down and really work on giving feedback. And I could script the feedback for them, give them the cues, tell them what to look for, and then with the video, then we could come back and we could stop it, slow it down, and review the video and talk about where the faults in the movement were and how to correct it, so that kids could give those cues as well. So those opportunities for feedback were amazing. And then other things that I've tried to implement with our reports and just conversations with our coaches, with our on-site athletic trainer. We can see what do we need, what are you seeing that's a weakness that we can probably improve in the weight room. So implementing things like crossover symmetry, and then the hip halos was a big implement this year. Just trying to focus on improving the valgus knee, posterior chain development, and some mobility and strength and change in direction. So it was about just having that ability to track the data, have conversations with the professionals that we have in the building has been really nice, as far as making some changes, and then having that ability to talk to other people, seeing what people are doing in other places is nice.
Coach, you've talked about just like a lot of things that you've learned or you're implementing and trying to get feedback in every step of the way. Can you give us something that you're excited about learning and improving on this next year as a coach?
Well, every year I kind of evaluate where we're at. What are we doing well? What can we improve on? And then based on those evaluations, do the data our tracking software conversations with coaches, trainers. Then I just kind of change our, see what needs we have, and then develop our programming based on that. And usually they're just small tweaks here and there, and just kind of keep it interesting. And then few years ago, we were having like problems with like shoulders. And I was talking to our athletic trainer, Susie Guider, who does an outstanding job. So, with that said, what have you seen out there? What can we purchase to kind of combat, prehab, rehab shoulders? And she said crossover symmetry. It's awesome. So made small purchases and did that. So that's kind of the stuff that we're doing yearly. For noticing, a track coach said, we've got some posterior chain weakness. Really would benefit from having we have 3 GHDs, so we couldn't really get everybody through them in a timely fashion, especially in large classes. So make purchases based on that. So, I think the biggest thing is just being able to kind of see really look at what we're doing and where we're struggling, and just try and make those purchases and changes in programming based on what our needs are.
Yeah, no doubt. That's something really cool to be able to just look back, assess with other coaches, get more eyes on the program, and say, hey, like what's something that we can do to benefit our athletes. And that takes a little bit of humbleness too. And it's really cool to hear that from coaches, that they just want to learn and maybe get feedback from other people. And athletic trainers are such an awesome resource to have within a building, because they see. I mean, it's like when you have an athletic trainer and a strength coach that are working together hand in hand with things. I mean, it's best for athletes, because that's kind of the go-between for most of what's happening. So that's a neat deal how you got that rolling, Coach.
So one of the other things that we did starting this year, I spoke a little bit about our athletic trainer. She's on site. So last year I was having her email me each week, and I get basically the injury report. And she'd send it to me like on a Sunday, and then what modifications she felt were necessary. She knew what my programming was. I gave her an admin sign-in to our tracking software so she could go in there and see what we're doing. I said, you know what, I'm going to make you a coach in this, and then I'll take out the middleman. You don't need to check with me necessarily. If you have something that I have an athlete in here that needs to modify their work, then I'm going to give you free range. Then if they can't do what we're doing with a slight modification, then you'll create the program in there. They'll sign in to rehab, and then they'll have a workout that's created just for them. So this is probably the biggest thing that we've done this year. Keep everybody in class. If they're injured and they're not in a wheelchair or in a body cast, then we're going to find something that they can do. And it's either going to be a modification given by me, and based on what the recommendation was from our athletic trainer, or they're going to have a full workout in there, or rehab or PT that's been assigned by their physical therapist or by our athletic trainer. So that's and we have a protocol that kids need, that we talk at our preseason meetings with the coaches. If you're injured during season, what next? What do I do? So I talk to my coach, and after I talk to my coach sends me to Susie. Susie either makes a recommendation, and Susie's our athletic trainer, or she will send them to a physician if she needs to. And then based on that, then we'll move forward with the training program or recovery program, whatever it may be.
You've got all the bases covered with that. I think that's a great system, a very good system.
Yeah. Well, I think that's what every teacher, every coach is trying to do, is just kind of remove hurdles for kids. I had a high school coach a long time ago that told me, what do I want to do? I want to take away hurdles. If you can't do something to make yourself better, I want to take away that hurdle so we can make it happen. So I've thought about that and kept that in the back of my mind throughout my career, and just try and take away hurdles every day.
Be efficient, right?
Be efficient.
So, Coach, we're coming to the end here, and we've got some quick questions that I'll throw out here, and you kind of throw out your answers. And then once we get done with that, I'll let you kind of talk about some ways that coaches can contact you, and then from there, if there's any last remarks. So, ready to roll for these last questions?
I'm ready.
All right. What is your favorite office snack?
Beef jerky. Anytime I can get it.
That's right, man. It's a great way to keep you awake in the car, and also fills you up pretty good. That's good. All right. So, favorite book?
Conscious coaching right now, especially strength related.
I just finished that one earlier this year, and it really makes you think. I was pretty impressed with just the different angles that he took, and more so than anything, just knowing his background story helped me relate to his work so much. I thought that was kind of cool how he put that in there.
I had no idea. Just had it tough.
Yeah, no doubt.
Been through some struggles.
Favorite caffeine source?
Dark roast coffee. Love it. Starbucks, preferably. Verona dark roast.
There you go. You're getting specific, man. Coffee tastes like dirt to me, which, that's probably like a cardinal sin for strength coaches. They're supposed to drink it black, but man, I stay away from that stuff. So good
early,
for
man.
you.
I have to get something to get me through the day.
That's good. All right, Coach, what's your favorite quote?
I don't know. Not really a quote, but my motto, my hashtag on my social media is just believe in work.
I like it. Very good. All right, last one. Coach, who's a small school coach who's killing it and deserves a shout out?
All right. So this guy is a wrestling guy and also a football guy, Derek Doherty, down at Fort Madison High School. Does an outstanding job with the kids. Kids love him. He's a science teacher, and last year he took over their athletic enhancement class. It's basically a 0-hour class, and really has a passion for it. Does great with building relationships with kids, and promotes the heck out of kids. He's doing a great job. He's come down to visit. So I enjoy talking to him and sharing some stories with him and seeing what struggles he's having and what success he's having. He's doing a great job.
Man, all those wrestling coaches kind of gang up and have some pretty good talks then, I assume.
Yeah,
that's
quite
good.
a fraternity.
Coach, what is the best way for people to contact you?
Probably email. I'm pretty responsive to that. I'll get back to most people within 24 hours. My email is morton@cr.k12.ia.us.
All right, and we'll have that in the show notes for anybody that wants to reach out and contact Coach and ask him any questions that you heard from the show or want to dig in a little bit deeper. Coach, I want to thank you for coming on the show, for sharing all the knowledge that you have with us, and really taking the time just to give back to the strength and conditioning community.
You bet. I appreciate the opportunity. Love what you're doing, and love hearing stories on the podcast every week.
Thanks, Coach.